25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I was driving on the beach one time in Daytona, Robin, and right near the pier, which you can't drive on that part of the beach anymore, by the way. Right near the pier, I got stuck in the soft sand, and I was like, oh, no. I was with a girl at the time, and oh, no. Oh, no. And Robin, out of the blue, I had maybe 10 guys lift up my car and take it to the hard sand, and I was on my way.
Oh, gosh.
They just voluntarily stood up and rescued me from my little mess.
Oh, wow.
That I was in. Yeah, I was in a 1970 Nova, by the way.
Gosh.
Just so you know. And it wasn't that old at that time. How old? That's how long ago it was. And anyway, the other day we went to the Strawberry Festival. The Strawberry Festival was a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity. Mm-hmm. And it was huge. There was so many people there. Mm-hmm. And there were people directing traffic, and there were people helping people park, and there were people helping people do everything, right? And Habitat for Humanity itself is an organization that would not exist if it wasn't for volunteers. Mm-hmm. All of the people who were at the Strawberry Festival were volunteers.
Yes.
Nobody was getting paid for it. It is an amazing thing to think about this world and how volunteerism is truly, truly underappreciated and under-recognized. Robert Clancy is not under-recognizing it. He gets it. He has written a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul, a collection of scenic views of volunteerism. He is such a visual writer. I just love the way he writes. I would love to read more things he's written. He's an entrepreneur, an inspirational speaker, an ordained minister, the co-founder and managing partner of Spiral Design Studio. And he is dedicated to volunteering within his own community as well as promoting volunteerism to the rest of us. I took too much time introducing him, but I wanted to do it in a way that you got why I fell in love with this book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul. Good morning, Robert. Clancy.
Good morning.
Good morning, Robert. How are you?
Yes, good. I'm doing outstanding, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
And where are you right now? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from upstate New York, Albany, just outside of Albany.
Oh, that's a nice area. I used to drive to Albany now and then. I used to live in Long Island, but now and then I'd go up to Albany. Are you an author by in other books? Are there other books by you?
Yes, actually I have Daily Downloads and Fortune Cookies from the Universe, and Love's Awakenings is one of my free ebooks for my newsletter, but I'm also going to release it in print, and that's some poems, and I'm working on my fourth book right now.
Do you know what's interesting about volunteering, and I'm sure this is no news to you or to anybody who's volunteered, is that when it's all done, you're usually exhausted, but you feel something else. You feel like you actually got something out of it as well, even though you gave. But you get something. There's something that you get back, don't you?
Absolutely. It's a reciprocity that happens. I don't volunteer per se to get that, but that's kind of the byproduct.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah. But it's important to point it out. And you're making a really good point. You wouldn't want to say, volunteer, you'll feel good afterwards. You don't want to say that because that's not what it's about. But yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not like volunteering. It's like, okay, I'm going to get something. Well, when okay, let me use this as an example. When Judy Garland died, and this, again, I'm showing my age with a couple of stories here, but I remember when she died, one of the newscasters said that she gave so much. And I remember thinking, she got paid for all that stuff, didn't she? And I'm not to say that getting paid doesn't mean you're not giving something, but there is something about not getting paid too, isn't there?
Yeah, you get. I get paid in love, and that's something you can't put a price on. It's a priceless gift that we can share, and when you put your heart into it, it's like it all comes back tenfold over. And, you get paid as the legacy that you leave in the hearts of others. So I feel like volunteers become immortal because they truly do live on with what they leave behind. And I made that conscious decision a while ago to just, I need to leave a legacy of something, make the place a little bit better than what I found. And I think that's what really, for me, the essence of volunteerism is.
And the people learn this from an extremely young age. If the parents of the child volunteers to do different things, when the child is growing up, there are different clubs in middle schools and high schools that they go out and actually volunteer within the community. So that's really is instilled in them when they are very young.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. I was actually just visiting Washington, D.C. I had my family. We have a couple of exchange students staying with us. I've got an extended family now. And while we're walking through the streets, my son saw some homeless people. And he wanted to give them money and do things. And we had a little discussion. And we said, to really help, you might want to volunteer to go and get them something to eat. So he went and got apples with his own money and just handed them out to the people. And it was just something that I think, as you said, you bring it to your family, and it's something that's instilled in them. And I was really proud of, seeing him, 16-year-old young man, just take it upon himself to make a difference.
That's awesome. We work at a mall, and we get here before anybody else gets here to do the show. And so the parking lot is always completely empty when we get here. And what's interesting to me is how much trash is in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And when you look around, if you, all you have to do is walk in any city street and you'll see a cup or litter is what I'm talking about. And I always think about the voluntary tossing away. In other words, this is negative volunteering. Mm-hmm. The voluntary tossing away of trash through the window is usually countered by the volunteers who walk on the side of the road and pick them up and throw them away. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing to me that people do the negative volunteering as well. There's negative leaving. We were behind a lady who put who dropped a pamper outside a toll booth one time.
Yeah, threw it right out the window.
Yeah. Are you a pastor in the traditional sense? Do you have a church, in other words?
No, I don't. I'm actually just, I had so many people ask me if I was a minister. I became ordained, and then, to officiate weddings and do things. And I never advertised for it, but I've actually, you get a front row seat to love. And I thought, what a great gift that is. And I've had some amazing weddings that I've officiated. So it's been a true honor to do that.
Mm.
And the life really it takes unexpected turns, and people learn, hopefully, from these unexpected turns and become a better person because of that. And you also bring that up in your book.
Yeah, and I had, through just being a minister, a family contacted me, and they were planning a big wedding a year later. And a friend of mine contacted me and said, hey, what are you doing next weekend? I'm like, I don't know. I looked at my calendar. I said, it's open. He said, can you do this wedding? And it was a bride whose dad was terminally ill, and she wanted him to walk her down the aisle. So they had to hastily put this wedding together. And there were only a few people there. And I got a front row seat to see this man walk his daughter down the aisle. And what a gift, just to be present for that. And he passed away a week later.
Oh, my.
It was, and, that's an unexpected turn that happens. And I volunteered. I didn't charge him for anything. I just did this. This is what volunteerism is. And it's putting yourself out there. And I actually told him, don't pay me. I'm going to make a donation in your honor. So I took the money they would have paid me and used it for something better.
There was a thing I was watching last night on the internet. What was the guy's name who was the firefighter from Brooklyn who was a friend of Frank's? He's an actor.
Oh, yeah. Gee, is it Robert Downey?
No, not Robert Downey. But anyway.
I can't remember his name. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I wish we could remember his name, but he.
It's the funny looking guy that played the doctor in 28 Days. And he was in Independence Day.
Easy. I didn't want to say funny looking guy.
Yeah, well, he's really good. I love him.
Oh my gosh!
And he was in Independence Day. Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, let me get to
the
point. Anyway, the point was that they showed that he had volunteered with because he was with the fire department, and then he became an actor, and he didn't really need to go back to the fire department ever again. He was that part of his life was done. But after 9/11, he volunteered to help clean up, and he volunteered to help be with those guys. And he put on his old uniform and everything and was right there and never once told anybody that he was there. It was the other firemen that let the media know that he was there with them. I can't remember his name, but...
No, I can't, and I can see him. I can see his face. We'll have to look at it.
I wanted to point out, Robert, that the book you use a lot of dialogue. I love dialogue in books. I don't know why, but I just do. It's kind of like loving melodies in a song.
Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi
Something
is
like
his
that.
name.
Yeah,
That's his name.
Yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Oh,
Buscemi.
yeah, Steve Buscemi, yes.
There you go. That's how you say it.
Thank you.
I knew it was something like that.
Now I can rest.
Okay, no, but anyway, I like dialogue. Dialogue to me, or well written dialogue, I should say, is like a good melody in a song. I don't know why I like them, but I do. So.
Yeah, and to me, I really wanted to capture. It's just, I didn't set out to be an author, so I would just wrote what I heard and how it came out, and to make people feel like they were there. And capturing the dialogue of what people said to me was really at the heart of everything that I felt. And I relived those moments. And it was really, somewhat difficult to write the book because going through those emotions again, and some of the stories are very emotional for me. I didn't realize how deeply they were in me either. So it was,
I think to be fair to the book, we should let the listeners have a little sample of some of those that are actually in the book. So let's take a little break, and on the other side, we'll ask you if you could maybe tell one or two of them. We'll take that break right now. Be right back. Robert Clancy is our guest. The book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul, a collection of scenic views of volunteerism, transcendental encounters with kindred spirits, and lessons in compassion.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, intervals of clouds and sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm mainly this afternoon. High 78 at the coast, 83 inland. Partly cloudy and warm Wednesday night, lows in the 60s. For Thursday, clouds and some sunshine and warm with a shower or thunderstorm before the day is through, high 82 to 86. For Friday, partly sunny and very warm with an afternoon shower or thunderstorm, high 85 to 89. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Tick-tock. The days fly by, and we find tax season is upon us once again. Not to worry, though. With a reputable CPA firm on your side, you can rest assured that all of your needs will be handled in a professional and thorough manner. Robson, Scribner & Stewart is just that firm. They're there for their clients year-round, not just during tax season, to handle your needs and answer any questions you may encounter. At Robson, Scribner & Stewart, there is no client too small or too large. Their expertise ranges from the single individual to the largest of corporations. Get your return prepared by a professional who will use their years of experience to ensure that your tax return's outcome will leave you in the best possible position. Call them today at 694-4184. Robson, Scribner & Stewart. They're there for you today. Again, that number is 694-4184. Time is of the essence, so don't delay. 694-4184.
Wow, man, you have a computer?
Yes, and I'm looking at villages1.com. They have a ton of information for the Villages resident.
Wow, they have information by the ton? I only need a couple ounces, man.
Movies, schedule, doctors, local attractions, even a section called Who You Gonna Call for plumbers and painters and stuff like that. These guys own cyberspace.
Wow, man, they own it? What's cyberspace?
That's where they packaged 50,000 pages of information for the Village residents.
Wow, they package it? Where?
Villages1.com.
Where, man?
Villages1.com.
The Friends of Silver Springs Park presents the 9th Annual Silver Springs Bluegrass in the Park Festival. Join us Saturday, the 2nd, at the Pioneer Cracker Village from 11 to 5. Admission is just $15. Children under 6 free. With an adult, there'll be 5 great bluegrass groups playing, craft and food vendors, but no alcohol, coolers, or pets. So grab your chair, friends, and family, and come on out Saturday to Silver Springs Bluegrass in the Park. Call 352-472-2703 for more information.
All right, 11 minutes now before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Robert Clancy is on the phone. His book is called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul. I think he's in Albany, New York, right? That's what he said? Albany. Robert, tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you always the volunteering? You've got a gentleness about you. Was that always you?
I think so. As far back as I could remember, I had 2 great parents who showed me what volunteerism was. My mother's smile was infectious, and she used that every day. I couldn't find any pictures of her really when she wasn't smiling when she passed away. When you make your photo montage.
Right.
There was always a great smile in there. And my dad was in World War II. He was actually on Omaha Beach during the D-Day invasion.
Wow.
And he signed up and volunteered for that. And he taught me what leadership was through compassion, because he was a frontline combat medic. And somebody once pointed out to me, they said, your dad was a fighter and a healer. he fought for what was right, and then he helped people through that. You
Wow.
know, and it was amazing, to have two parents like that. And, that's where I think it comes from, and that's our legacy. It's what I want to instill in my son something,
The notes that your publicist provided us with indicate that you have a story of something that happened when you were 19?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, that's in my upcoming book, but I'll share with you the thumbnail. I'm a very analytical, scientific person, and I went through a very difficult period at age 19, losing several friends to suicide. And somebody taught me how to meditate, and God's honest truth, this is something I kept a secret even from my family, and I recently told them the night my mom passed away. But during my meditation, an angel actually manifested, and I could see it with my own eyes. And it was there for an hour. It wasn't something like I was dreaming or
Wow.
I wish there was an explanation, and I've had to live with knowing, and that's what I told myself. And I knew what she showed me was every act of kindness matters, and that's what I've spent the last 30 years of my life doing is just trying to make that happen and be the best person I could be.
Wow, every act of kindness matters.
I love that.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
love that quote.
On my father's deathbed, he said to me, make people happy. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, that's my mission. What do I got to do? How do I do that? I don't know how to do it. I'll try whatever I can do. Tell us one of the stories in the book. And was there one story that actually led to the book itself?
Yeah, it was the story of my friend Ken, and it was somebody, it was the first story I wrote, and, I was in a volunteer group with him, and he taught, that lesson that I learned from him was you can't prejudge people, and I did not like him. I thought he was very arrogant, and, it was bad. So I ended up telling him that, you need to put in to be a better person. And what our journey was is he ended up having cancer, and I was there at the last days of his life and had written down all these beautiful things people said about him and read them to him. And, it was a journey, and I learned a lot from from him and his leadership and his ability. And you know what he spent the last days of his life doing? Random acts of kindness. And it really taught me a lot about him, that I judged him up and down before that, and then realized he's an awesome person, and I apologized to him for not supporting him better, because I was in a leadership position over him, and he was a chapter president, and he was, I thought he was all about the awards, and it turned out he was just a beautiful soul.
That's a beautiful story. I wonder how many people around us are beautiful souls, and we just don't recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell us some of the hardest people. When you go to their funerals and you hear other people talk about him, you go, "Oh wow, I didn't know that about him or her." And it's, wow, she seems so
right.
She seems so hard. I didn't never know she did that. And yeah. I had the opportunity to tell him those things. Those things you hear at the funeral. I told him before he passed away. And when we think about volunteering, we think about things like Habitat for Humanity. We think about picking up trash. But if you really think about what a volunteer means, a couple or a person who adopts a child has voluntarily made a decision to raise a human being, and that's a lifelong thing that nobody ever considers that to be a voluntary thing. But it is. You're volunteering, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me one of the stories that was one, obviously. Give us another one.
Yeah, I can tell you a short one. It was it is a part, since we're talking about volunteers, and it was Jerry. I had volunteered for several years with MDA, and I ran into this man in the elevator one day, and he's in a wheelchair, and he knew my name, and I didn't know him. And he said, "You volunteered for the last 4 years for muscular dystrophy." And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, actually, I was working the phones, and I signed up because I was going to be on TV. It was just having fun. They give you pizza and cookies. It was just a fun time.
Right,
so I wasn't
right.
really thinking about the ramifications of my volunteer work. And he told me about a young man who passed away at 24 from muscular dystrophy, and my face went white. And he said, "No, I'm not telling you this to feel bad. I'm telling you this because he would have died when he was 14. And every day that he lived, he thanked the volunteers who were in support of his life. And he knew your name.
Oh,
and
wow.
that blew my mind. I mean, I almost started crying in this
amazing.
elevator. You know, I got off, and he said these poignant words to me. He said, "Without people like you around, there wouldn't be people like me around."
Wow.
That stuck with me. That stuck with me for many years.
You know, a couple of months ago, Robin and I went to a Chinese restaurant, and we used to go to this Chinese restaurant maybe 12 years ago, and we saw the restaurant. Yeah, we haven't been there in a long time. Let's go in there. So we go into this Chinese restaurant, and the waitress comes up to us, and she looks at me, and she says, "You bought me diapers." And I said, "I did? I bought you diapers?" And long story short, Robin and I had been there, I guess, when she was pregnant with her child, who was now 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah, I don't even remember it, but isn't that amazing how people remember when you do a little act of kindness?" And all that was, we probably went out to the grocery store, got a box of something,
Right.
and brought them into her. That's all we did.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
some 12 years later, she remembers me, and I said, "Well, at least it didn't change that much if you can remember what I look like in 12 years."
Right. Yeah, and you know, that's the key point where you just made. There are people who are thinking about you years after things that you've done for them, and that energy just keeps coming back to you. So that's the payment that comes in. That's that energy, the synergy of giving, and it comes back tenfold. And think about, you know, how many people. That's one person out of your list, Larry. That
Yeah, right.
You know, there are probably hundreds that you have no idea.
Yeah.
And there are people out there that sometimes, you know, they just give and give and give. They do all they can, maybe not necessarily money, but their time and service and their talents. And then, you know, they might get to feeling frustrated or something. And then all of a sudden somebody comes back and says something like that, like the lady had said to Larry, and that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Robin. I was having a really bad day, and then out of the blue, this phone call comes in, and it was like that. And, you know, it changed my whole perspective on everything. And it's like, yeah, okay, things aren't so bad.
Right, exactly.
Do you know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping people get the book and read some of the stories to their children. I know it's not a children's book, but you have a couple stories in here that I think children will relate to.
Yes.
And like I say, the dialogue always gets me. So you can see the people without seeing the people. I have a copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul. I'd like to give it away. Call me right now, 622-9622. The book will be waiting for you here at the studio, and the rest of us will have to go buy it. Robert, how do we do that? Do you have a website?
Yes, if you go to guidetothesoul.com, and on there I have links to where you can get the book. You can also search it up on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and you can order it from any bookstore worldwide.
And I really like the fact that you're into martial arts and you teach your students discipline and how to look within themselves to help others, as opposed to having a takeaway world.
Yeah, I taught a really good class the other day, and it was a test for second-degree black belts. And at the end, I told them a story, and they started crying.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
wow.
They're like, "You would do that to us."
It's almost like, I mean, that's what they say about martial arts. I've never taken it, but they say martial arts is really a very spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I've got students from all over the world. There's a private girls' school up the road, and they're from all different countries. So it's really teaching people to be better. And in volunteering, I even threaded into that because I sponsored a special self-defense workshop for Girl Scouts and just donated my time for it.
Oh, my. That is absolutely amazing.
I loved that conversation. Robert Clancy, thank you for being on our show. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making the world a better place.
And you too. And thank you so much for having me on. And keep that love in your heart always.
Yeah, it's not easy. It sounds easy when you hear me on the radio, but if you could see me driving in traffic, I don't have love in my heart. All right, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. A Republican divide apparently growing over support for the eventual nominee.
John Kasich, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump backed down from a commitment they'd made early on in the campaign to support the eventual choice. Trump at CNN's town hall last night in Milwaukee.
No, I don't anymore. Look,
you don't?
No, we'll see who it is.
Cruz also agreed.
I'm not in the habit of supporting someone who attacks my wife and attacks my family. I think that is going beyond the line.
Kasich also adopting a wait-and-see stance.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. A concealed firearm has some law enforcement concern.
It's a double-barreled handgun that can fold up and look like a smartphone. The developer, Ideal Conceal,